Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It's We are starting our course American Literature, and it's the first lecture of our course. Let's start with a brief overview of the United States of America. The United States of America is the fourth largest country in the world in area after Russia, Canada, and China. An interesting thing about the United States is that it contains diversity of population. No other country has such a wider range of races, ethnic backgrounds, and cultural types than does the America. We are going to know more and more about America with the help of its literature, because literature and society are inseparable. They are connected with each other, and we are going to know about the colonized we are going to know about colonized America, and we are going to trace its history from colonial period till contemporary era. And it is usually said that every piece of literature is the reflection of the society. So we are going to know about colonized America through its writings, and we are going to know about postmodern America with the help of its literature. So, like the literature of Britishers, it is divided into different era. It is divided into different periods. Same as with American literature, it is divided into different periods and ages. So we are going to start from colonial period. Before that, in exploration period, the writings, the European writings about North America were written in that period, and European writings describe the explorers' travels and impressions of continent and its native people. It is basically all about exploration period. But in colonial period, America, as its name signifies that it was colonized era, English speakers came there. It was early 17th century, and they came with their Puritan ideas. That's why the colonial period was dominated by Puritan beliefs, and thus literature of this period was highly religious, historical, and didactic. In that period, the focus was not on the growth of literature but was on the growth of religion and English, and on English language, because English speakers wanted to make English as the official language. Before that, English was not the main language of that area. Important things about that colonial period is that the first slave narratives were written at that time. At that time, as I said before, Puritans came with their English speakers came with their Puritan beliefs. So imaginative literature was very rare because Puritans considered it immoral. An important name of that era is Captain John Smith, who is considered as the first English American author. Uh, every action has a reaction. So colonization was an action, and its reaction, revolution, happened. So revolutionary period basically dated from 1765 to 1790. This period began with the passing of the Stamp Act in England and ends in 1790. As I said before, literature and society are inseparable. So in the colonial period, the focus was on religious works, but in revolutionary period, writing shifted from religious works towards political motivated writings. An important work of that time is Declaration by the Representatives of the United States of America, written by Thomas Jefferson. Now we have early national period. This period is interesting because in that period, imaginative literature began to emerge. Novels, poetry, essays, and sketches began to flourish, and the readership and publishing world, they began to grow. In that time period, slaves' narratives were frequently published, and we have famous authors in which a female author is also worth mentioning, that is Hannah Webster Foster. So, this period marked the novelty in American writing style. Then we have Romantic period. That period covered Jacksonian democracy to the end of Civil War. This was the period which is usually referred as American Renaissance. As Renaissance means rebirth and revival, so this period gave a new birth to American literature, and slavery debates, historical narratives, poems inspired by Romanticism, prose works examined national unity, they appeared on screen. We have, and another important thing about this era is one author who gave a new dimension to mystery, and that is Edgar Allan Poe. Without mentioning his name, I think this age is incomplete to define. In that era, we have Walt Whitman, Emily Dickinson, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and in the field of drama, Uncle Tom's Cabin, that play became very popular. Then we have Age of Transcendentalism, that investigated the relationship between nature, human society, and the divinity. And this transcendentalism, this movement is incomplete without mentioning the name of Ralph Waldo Emerson. Uh, then we have post Civil War period, was an era, that was an era of industrialization and urbanization as the nation started recovering emotionally, culturally, and politically from the aftermaths of the war, and that era is realism. It in that era, realism appeared, and it emphasized on unidealized and truthful depiction. Emily Dickinson published Walt Whitman, Emily Dickinson, and in realism, an important name is Mark Twain, Henry James. They are the authors who earned fame in in the era of realism. Then we have an offshoot of realism, that is naturalism, that gave an even more realistic and unflinching depiction of contemporary life. This naturalism is usually characterized by a pessimistic view of humanity and human existence. Okay, then a period in not only in American literature but also in British literature that spanned between World War One and World War Two. It is known as modern period, and works in that period reflected the changes in society, in the politics, and in the cultural climate. We have Robert Frost from that era, T.S. Eliot, um, Hemingway, a name that is a name uh, that not only highlighted chaos of war in his writings. Hemingway not only highlighted the real picture of war in his writings, but he also gave us the real understanding of existentialism. In that era, Eugene O'Neill's dramas became famous. Then we have Harlem Renaissance. Um, Harlem Renaissance basically a movement that was the first visual, literary, and performing arts movement by African Americans, and it concerned with with their own lives, art, culture, and politics. Langston Hughes is a worth mentioning name of that period. Then we have Lost Generation. Uh, After World War II, a group of American writers, they were disillusioned. They were disturbed due to the hypocrisy of dominant American ideology and culture. Many writers moved from left America and they moved towards the artistic life in Paris. We have Ezra Pound and T.S. Eliot and Hemingway, a very important name of that era. Then we have beat writers. Their writings were generally regarded anti-traditional, anti-establishment, and anti-intellectual. T.S. Eliot and Gertrude Stein are the famous names. Then we have postmodern or contemporary era in British and American literature, the postmodern period. It's not in American but also in British literature. This period refers to literature written after World War II. And this period reflects anxieties and concerns and reactions to life in 20th century. Postmodern works are usually regarded as highly experimental and anti-conventional. From Americans, the best and renowned name is Sylvia Plath, Philip Larkin, Alice Walker, and Toni Morrison, a very famous name. We have Edward Albee, Arthur Miller, Tennessee Williams, Lorraine Hansberry from this period as well. Moving towards the history of drama, it basically American drama history is interesting in a sense that the first American company was managed by David Douglas, who it was the first professional company to produce plays in the American colonies. The first production was The Prince of Parthia in 1767. The first actual theatre was built in 1716, but there is no trace of that. Then we have early American actors in which they basically in which the very famous name is Ira Aldridge. And then we have American playwrights. The famous American dramatists are Eugene O'Neill. He talked about interpersonal relationship to faith. We have Clifford, who talked about Great Depression. Arthur Miller, who talked about social and political tragedies. Realism, Hansberry talked about social issues, equality for women. Suzanne Glaspell talked about American selfhood. In our course we have Eugene O'Neill. Born on October 16, 1888 and died on November 27, 1953. Theatre was in the blood of Eugene O'Neill because his father was a theatre actor. Eugene O'Neill earned success in his life. He received many prizes. Despite of all his achievements, he lived a unstable life. His life was not stable due to disruption, due to unstable relationship, due to unstable familial relationships, and we will see this thing in almost all of his plays. Long Day's Journey. So we are starting our summary or story of the play from a brief introduction of characters. We have James Tyrone, Mary Tyrone, Jamie, Edmund, and Kathleen. So the story, basically this play is divided into 4 acts, and it's a semi-autobiographical play. We are starting from Act 1. The play begins in the living room of Tyrone family's summer home at 8:30 in the morning in August 1912. The family has just finished breakfast. Breakfast is important to consider because it's a family time, and family time is usually associated with happiness. And we'll notice in this play that this family is in a disturbed relationship. uh, Mary Tyrone and her husband, James Tyrone, they both are conversing with each other, and their conversation highlights that there is something problematic. As for example, apparently they are in talking normally, but continuously Mary is trembling. Her hands are shivering, and from the next room, uh, Edmund and Jamie, they are laughing, and their laugh irritates James Tyrone. He thinks that this is an actual mocking, or that his sons are mocking him. That's why they are laughing. Then another important element of this play is the constant coughing fits of Edmund. And Mary reassures herself that these are only summer, this is only bad cold. She is not realizing the severity of this cough. Then in this act 1, Jamie Edmund entered and joined their parents, and they both are happy. But we noticed that whenever anyone stared at Mary, it made her confused. And she even asks James not to stare at her because it makes her self-conscious. As I said before, this family is not in a good familial relationship. When children when Jamie and Edmund, they tease Tyrone on his snoring, instead of enjoying, he got furious. And the beginning of this play tells that the relationship between uh, parents and children, it's not harmonious one. In this act, we also came to know that Edmund is under the consultation of Dr. Hardy, who is a quack. Quack means a doctor who is a quack are usually those who do not treat patients, instead they make them patients. Um, in this play, we have many episodes of Mary's emotional outburst, and each and every outburst of Mary will help us in tracing her past and reasons of her trembling. Uh, and in the first act, Mary cries, she at once loses her control, and in that control, she complains, she cries that she dislikes almost all doctors, especially Mr. Hardy, Dr. Hardy. And then she leaves. After she leaves the stage, we came to know that Edmund is really sick and Jamie wants his father to tell Mary about the severity of Edmund's cough, because he thinks that sooner or later Mary will know about this, so better is to prepare her. But Tyron is not realizing the sensitivity of the situation. It seems on surface level, it seems that he is not realizing the situation. Instead of going deeper into this matter, he scolds James that he is a very bad boy. He does not value money. He is only relying on his father's money, and from this conversation we came to know that Jamie has been expelled from almost every school he attended, and he is alcoholic. And James Tyrone mentions this, that it is only due to his father influences that he is getting roles of acting. So we also know that James Tyrone is a successful actor, and his son Jamie, who inherited his looks, does not inherited his passion or his style, because from the very first act of the play it is clear that James Tyrone is strong, confident and looks young, whereas his own wife Mary, she is in a transitory phase where she is moving towards her downfall. Is not a bad, it's not a good word to use. We can say that she is moving towards her old phase, in that phase where women started having gray hairs and like that. And here in a and here this fight tells that the relationship between James and Jamie is not stable at all. But Jamie demands his father from the very start. He wants his brother to be treated by a good doctor, and he accuses his father for his miserliness. And in this conversation they have another debate, that is of Mary. Mary became morphine addicted, and when the play started she came back from sanatorium, and family is happy that she has recovered, but in original she has not recovered. She is still taking morphines, and Jamie as is the first one who gets this thing that no, she is still addicted to morphine. But again James Tyrone, realizing this situation, shouted on Jamie that you are the one who always tries to fault in others. And you will notice that in this play moves in a pattern of fight, reconciliation, sympathy, fight, reconciliation. It moves in that circle. Okay. And later we will discuss that why and how Mary became addicted to this morphine. Now moving towards scene 2 of Act 1. Now moving towards Act 2 Scene 1, because we are done with Act 1, and Act 2 Scene 1, it's the same day, And we have a character Kathleen as well. She is the maid servant, and in this play we will see that in this play uh, we will notice one thing, that alcohol drinking, consumption of drinking is very common. uh, Jamie knows that Edmund's sickness is more than a malaria, whereas Edmund thinks that it's malaria. Um, we notice that repeatedly in this play, Edmund is having coughing fits. And here Mary tells her children, in the absence of James Tyrone, that that James Tyrone worked his way up from poverty to the top of his profession, and she says that this man is getting old, and Jamie should show him more consideration. Now we have at the time of lunch, we have the whole family is together again, and we notice one thing, that Edmund and Jamie, they drink some whiskey, but there is a atmosphere of gloom. The atmosphere is gloomy. Okay, so as the play progresses, um, we notices that Edmund and Jimmy and James, Tyrone, they all are um, very much addicted to alcohol. Then again, Mary, this act has another episode of Mary's outburst, and here she complains that she never ever has this idea of home. She is not happy with this home, and this outbursts made Tyrone clear that Mary has started taking addiction. Mary has started taking morphine. Um, and here we see that Mary is an escapist. She herself is struggling with her emotions, and in that she is worried for Edmund as well, and she is blaming James that he is the cause of inducing this thing in the house. And in this act, the word morphine or drug addiction is not clearly used, but by the end of this scene, everyone knows that everyone knows the truth. And how they guess that Mary is addicted towards Mary's again addiction, through her strange detachment when she speaks. Then we have. As I said before, that Jamie inherited his father looks, whereas Edmund inherited his mother. He inherited his mother escapism, as Mary is not realizing the severity of Edmund's curve. Same, Edmund is not ready to accept the truth that Mary has again started taking morphine. And it's a very ironic thing in the play that Mary is everyone dislikes Mary's habit of addiction. On the same time At the same time, Jamie and Edmund and Tyron, they are drinking. So it's the same thing. They all are escapists in their own way. Their dose their dose of forgetfulness is alcohol, and her is morphine. And you will notice one thing, that more and more the play progresses, you are going to sympathize with each and every character. They all suffer in their own ways. Now moving forward, we have Act 2, Scene 2. um, in this act, Tyron Tyron and Mary, they are um, Tyron is again not in good mood, because Mary talks about the idea of home, that she is not happy with this idea of home. And in this act, the phone rang, and Tyrone answered it, and it was Dr. Hardy who diagnosed the Edmund disease and made it clear that this is not a normal cough. Again, in this episode, Mary showed her distrust towards Hardy, and she again made Tyrone realize that he is, as Jimmy said before, that he is doing it just for the sake of money. And then she again detached herself and moved upstairs. Um, and here Jamie says that there is no cure for the addiction, and we are fooling ourselves if we are having this hope that one day she will get rid of that. It's not like that. Um, Here, this act talked about a very interesting thing, that talks here Eugene O'Neill talked about religion, as Edmund is interested in books, all the books that are in home that belongs to Edmund, and he is in the like he's in here. Both sons and father talked about religion, and both sons united to fight with their father, because here James Tyrone thinks that his sons left their traditional religion, Catholicism. That's why they are so deprived, that's why they are so much in trouble. But here Edmund clearly asserted his interest in Nietzsche's belief, and he says God is dead was right. So as here Tyrone told Jamie about diagnosis of Edmund's disease, that that he is suffering from tuberculosis, and according to doctor that he can be cured in 6 to 12 months if he stays in sanatorium. Jamie again demands that Edmund should be sent to a good sanatorium. He believes that here here Jamie Tyrone decides that he will visit to doctor with his sons. Um, and here in this act, we are noticing that the character who is again and again who is again and again getting nervous, who is trying to come back and then going towards addiction, a disturbed, every character is disturbed, but Mary is more disturbed. She is again and again coming on stage. She is ready to cover herself. Sometimes she is not. And um, James Tyrone offered Mary to go for a car because he purchased a second car for Mary. And and again, Mary tried to go into the past, but and they talked about how Mary abandoned her friends. But again, James asked her not to go into the past. Um, Mary says that she has no one to invite to go for drive. When she was younger, she had many friends, but not since she married an actor. She alludes to a scandal about a former mistress who sued him, after which she had no friends. Mary says that she needs to visit drugstore, and Tyrone knows that why she wants to visit drugstore. But again, each and every conversation tells that the past is still haunts their present, and they are not um, like they are things are not getting stable because past was not stable. And here Mary tells us about another thing, that she blames herself for not sticking to her vow not to have another baby after Eugene died. Eugene was her second baby, who died at age 2 from measles caught from 7-year-old Jamie after Jamie went into the baby's room. Mary believes Jamie did this on purpose. Tyrone again tells her to please forget the past, do not recall, but Mary now blames herself for not staying with Eugene but going with her husband. Instead, he's toured with his acting company. This shows that when the children were in their adolescence, James was roaming around due to his acting company, and Mary was the only one who is looking after the children. And she thinks that the unstable health of Edmund is due to her, and she is guilty over that. So this shows that again Mary's outburst tells us many things about the past, that why Edmund is sick, why children are not happy. Then we have then we came to know another important thing. Here Edmund, James Tyrone, and Jamie, they are going to Dr. Hardy, but Mary is not in the favor. That Mary is not at all in this favor to consult Dr. Hardy. And here again, Mary feels sad, and she is unable to understand that why she is not getting her faith back. And she wants to restore her faith, but she's unable. She's not in her stable situation. An important thing that this act 2 scene 2 uh, highlighted is that there is there is a big generation gap between the family. Tyrone is still attached to his Catholic faith, though he is not a practicing Catholic. But Jamie and Edmund have cast their religious belief aside, and Edmund and James Tyrone considers this is the cause of the self-destruction. Later, we came to know that each act helps us in understanding the whole past of the family. Each new incident help us in understanding that what happened in the past, and it is quite clear that Tyrone family is stuck in the past. um, um, and it seems that their old wounds are not properly healed. It and every new incident refreshes their old wounds. As Mary and I am finishing this act story and analysis on this on Mary words that the past is the present, isn't it? It is the future too. So it is quite clear that this family is trapped, right? Tyrone family is badly trapped. So till yet we have covered first two acts of the play. We came to know about the we came to know about many things. The very first important thing is about James Tyrone. James Tyrone, a man of 65 years old. James Tyrone is 65 years old, and he was once a famous actor. Uh, as Mary told his children, and readers came to know that his Irish father abandoned him at the age of 10, and he started his life, he started earning at the age of 10. And now another character is Mary Tyrone. Um, she tried many times to get rid of morphine addiction, but after but time but it but she again and again shifts towards her addiction. uh, though she loves Tyrone, but she regrets on her decision of getting married to this actor. We have Jamie Tyrone, the elder son, who is in his early 30s, but he relies on his parents for support. He is alcoholic. He he dropped out of several colleges and had very little ambitions. Whereas Edmund Tyrone, an intellectual and dreamer like his mother, we came to know that his coughing fits are not normal, it's tuberculosis. um, he is partially alcoholic as it's in family, and and Mary has a secret hope that this son of her will become a success one day. And then we have a minor character, Kathleen. She's a maid. She appears in play. She has very small minor role, and she is flirtatious. She did flirt in the play. So this is the till yet picture of the play, and in the next two acts we are going to know more about the story, that how it will move. Um, and this play is the best play of is considered as a masterpiece of Eugene O'Neill, and O'Neill received many awards for this play as well. In the upcoming acts, we will come to know more about Mary's past as well, and this thing and the disturbance in the family basically highlights the disturbed personal life of Eugene O'Neill as well. Eugene O'Neill earned fame, received awards, became a successful writer. Despite of his success, he faced many problems in his life. In his personal life, marital struggle and alienation with family is the prominent one.